Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Whitney Ward.
Good to have you with us. I'm Mark Hanrahan. We have been on a stretch of dry, warm weather for a while now, but things are about to change with cooler weather, even some rain heading our way.
Meteorologist Thomas Patrick is standing by right now for an update on everything we need to know. Thomas?
Hey, and this weekend might be our first small taste of the fall season to come here, but we get a little wave that moves in tonight and into early tomorrow morning. Save for a couple sprinkles in the Palouse this afternoon. We're starting to see the main wave of rain just now work its way into southeastern Washington. So the Blue Mountains, Grangeville area actually seeing a bit of a lightning storm for the second time today. You seem to be the magnet for any kind of lightning because that's the only place I've seen it all day long. But these showers will continue to progress northward, closer to Spokane earlier tomorrow morning. That means for all the kids heading to school, all the parents heading to work, likely going to be a wet commute in the morning hours with a chance of showers even lingering into the afternoon hours. But that's only round one. Looks like round two comes our way this weekend, and then we have more rain chances for the week ahead. So September already shaping up to be a little bit wetter than average for the days to come. So we'll go day by day and even hour by hour for tomorrow's rain chances during those morning hours. That's all coming up in a few minutes.
Sounds good, Thomas. Thank you so much. Hurricane Durian is moving up the Carolina coast tonight and was just downgraded to a Category 1 storm, but it's already brought treacherous wind and rain.
Thousands of people already without power. The major concern is flooding. Dorian's winds and rains are damaging enough, but its outer bands are also spinning off tornadoes.
We've got everything all charged. We've got food we can cook both on the grill and on the stove, and we're pretty much ready.
Well, that couple you just heard from, they're staying at their Wilmington, North Carolina home to ride out the storm. Thousands of people have already lost power, a number that could top 700,000 at the peak. Shelters are at the ready and officials urging residents to use them as that storm closes in.
Glad to be alive. This is the second time in my life. I should have been dead.
Wow. Survivors in the Bahamas consider themselves incredibly lucky to be alive tonight. That man was rescued from Abaco Island yesterday and then flown to Princess Margaret Hospital, he says, just in time to save his legs from amputation. His houseboat was swept away by Durian, leaving him in debris-filled water.
My goodness. As we mentioned, Durian now downgraded to a Category 1 tonight, but when it hit the Bahamas on Sunday, it was a Category 5. The Red Cross estimates about 13,000 homes are severely damaged or even destroyed. That's about 45% of the housing. And now people living there are trying to put the pieces back together, and they have a little help from one Florida man. He spent about $50,000 at Costco. All that money went to generators and other household goods that will be shipped to the Bahamas once the hurricane passes. The man, who wishes to remain anonymous, says it's important to help each other out. $50,000. My goodness. Well, and this was a look behind me here just a few hours ago off the shore of Cape Fear in North Carolina. And this is the flag at Frying Pan Tower, which is about 35 miles from the coastline.
Yeah, it's been a very popular lookout for hurricanes. In fact, the same place was watched from all around the world during Hurricane Florence just last year. So I want you to come over here with me because I did a little bit of digging just to get some more information about Frying Pan Tower, starting, of course, with its very interesting name. So it turns out the waters all around the tower are very shallow. That's why it was built there in the first place, to warn ships to stay away from the shoals, which just happened to be built or formed in the shape of a long-handled frying pan. We have a map here. This is an old Coast Guard map, and if you take a look, pretty much shows the shape of this long-handled frying pan. So the tower itself was built back in the 60s. Of course, technology has improved quite a bit since then. So now Frying Pan Tower has a whole new purpose. It's owned by a private couple in North Carolina. They basically run it as a bed and breakfast. So for about $600 a night, you can stay out there and enjoy unprecedented views of the Atlantic. By the way, no land is visible from that tower in any direction, and the only way to get there, of course, is by boat or by helicopter. It's what's underwater that is now the big draw. More than 130 shipwrecks dating all the way back to the early 1800s. And now, look at that, snorkelers and scuba divers flocking to that area, not only to explore those shipwrecks, but to experience the incredible sea life. It's part of the Atlantic that is home to sharks, barracuda, rays, all sorts of incredible creatures. And the last interesting note that I found brings us back to Old Glory. So during Florence, the flag at Frying Pan Tower was nicknamed Kevin. That apparently came from a couple of kids who had been watching the live feed, just kind of stuck. Well, now this flag that is out there right this minute is named Steve. Turns out that every flag gets a new name. The owner says it's to represent all of us as Americans. He says sometimes shredded to pieces, but we're still plugging away. I thought that was pretty interesting.
I like that analogy.
And the cool thing about the flag is he takes it down after the storm, and then it gets auctioned off, and all the proceeds go to help hurricane victims.
Well, that's a good cause right
Yes.
there. And it looks like it'd be a beautiful place to stay, especially when there's not a hurricane.
Definitely, although they are open during hurricane season if you're brave enough.
Yeah, good to know. Thank you, Whitney.
Yeah.
Well, in July, the city of Spokane made progress toward opening up a new homeless shelter on East Sprague. The idea was met with resistance, though, from neighbors, and now months later, the status of that shelter is a bit hazy.
Yeah, this is after the city council already approved a purchase agreement for the building that would house that shelter. KREM 2's Casey Decker explains what we know now.
Here are the most basic facts. The old grocery outlet location is still on the table, but I've learned other options are also on the table. And generally, progress has slowed. As of right now, the grocery outlet on East Sprague is the option that's furthest along. City Council approved a purchase agreement with a $50,000 earnest payment. Now, city staff are doing more detailed assessment of the location. But they've hit some roadblocks. One, resistance from neighbors, including nearby nonprofit Project ID. Two, the shelter is supposed to be in cooperation with the county, but I'm told the county so far has been slow to get on board. So other options are still being considered, including the former Daybreak building downtown. Another, the Cannon Street building that hosted an emergency warming center last winter. But none of these options are anywhere near as far along as the grocery outlet, and none of them has as high a capacity, 120 beds. That means if the city doesn't go with the grocery outlet, they'll likely need to purchase multiple smaller shelters to maintain that goal of 120 beds. Several city council members have expressed frustration about the lack of progress. This time last year, they had hoped to open a new shelter in July. Then that was pushed back to sometime this fall. The city says a fall opening is still possible, but the council is worried that without rapid progress from city staff, there won't be enough full-service shelter spaces come wintertime. That would mean the return of emergency warming centers, and because of a court ruling, it could make it impossible to enforce the no sit, no lie ordinance. One other question, that $50,000 earnest payment. If the city doesn't go through with the grocery outlet shelter, what happens to that money? Well, it depends. Basically, the city could get the money back, but only if the reason for backing out is listed in the purchase agreement. Casey Decker, KREM 2 News.
We'll keep you posted on that one. Meantime, this morning was the first time since the primary election that all of these Spokane City candidates have been together at the same forum. The topic today was homelessness. The forum started off with the candidates' knowledge and experience with homelessness.
So Ben Stuckert talked about a time in his life when he only had enough money to either pay rent or buy food. His opponent, Nadine Woodward, spoke of her conversations with volunteers who help people who are experiencing homelessness. Then the candidates gave their take on why there is homelessness in Spokane in the first place.
At least 20 different reasons listed. Lack of income, family conflicts.
And the people, boots on the ground, who are doing this every single day, they say the vast majority of our homeless are mentally ill, have a mental illness or an addiction issue.
So questions the candidates couldn't get to today will have their responses then posted on the Spokane Homeless Coalition Facebook page. A group that got Medicaid expansion on the Idaho ballot last year is now working on another initiative.
They are called Reclaim Idaho, and members want to raise money for public schools by increasing taxes on corporations and the wealthy. Supporters say the increase will generate $170 million for K-12 public schools. It would also reduce the need for school levies, they say. The group submitted the initiative to the Idaho Secretary of State's office. If the Attorney General approves it, the group will need to get 55,000 voter signatures to get that initiative on the 2020 ballot.